Well, children, the other day we have discussed about the internal and external factors of the transpiration, and today we are going to discuss the transport of the water, mineral, food in plants. Now you know what is the definition of this? The process by means of which the plants absorb the mineral and the nutrients, then they send them to their part where they do the laboratory activity or kitchen activity, that means in the leaf, through the stem, and then when they prepare the food and it sends to all other parts of the plant body is known as the transport of the water, mineral and the food in the plants. Well, we have as far as the absorption. Now you know the plant has the root part and the shoot part. In the root part, the primary root, secondary root and tertiary roots are there which go below the soil, and from below the soil the roots are having the root hairs. This is almost like this. Look at the picture of this. These are the roots, primary roots that go, and they just divide into the secondary roots, and from that the tertiary roots are there. And you see here is the cap which is known as the root cap, and above the root cap there is a gap. This gap, after that gap there are a lot of hair-like structures. They are definitely unicellular and many of them are there. So these are known as the root hairs. But then what is the need of this region, my dear children? This region is known as the growing or dividing zone. Growing or dividing zone. Now what is this growing and dividing zone is meant for? What is the meaning of growing and dividing zone for this? Suppose say this is the plant. Horrible thing. Dividing the plant. This is the plant. Now, what is the importance of this dividing zone? Now you see, the roots absorb the mineral and the water, that means the mineral nutrients for the plants. Now, these roots grow beneath the soil. Sometimes they get a barrier. Might be a huge stone or might be an old log of trees which was buried in the soil. Then what does they do? You see, this part grows, and what happens, you know, if they come in, this is the root cap, they come in front of the stone, they don't have the power to penetrate it. The plant root has no power to penetrate the stone or else the log of the wood. Then what happens? You see, they will either bend through this way, or they will come over the stone, or they will go through that way. For that, what happens, you know, the root hairs fall. Root hairs fall, and this is elongated, and this part elongates and comes here. And then again the root cap grows and root hairs come out over here. So there the root hairs were there, those all are fallen. So that is why the growing or dividing zone is important. So growing and dividing zone is important. These root hairs fall, they bend and they come, because they cannot penetrate the stone. Then they come again, they penetrate through the soil to get their absorption. And root hairs and the root caps are also there. So by that they absorb the minerals and the salts, and this is done by two processes. One is the osmosis, another is the diffusion. Usually by the diffusion process the mineral are transported, and by the osmosis there are two kinds of osmosis. There are one cell to cell osmosis, and there are osmosis from outside cell to the cell, and there are three kinds of solutions are there: hypertonic, hypotonic and isotonic solution. In isotonic case, the concentration of the liquid remains outside and inside same, so there is no movement, and in other cases the hypertonic more inside and less outside, where in the hypotonic more outside, less inside. So this is how they do, and they send the materials to the leaves, and so the absorption is done. Now the ascent of cell. There is a certain theory by which there are factors of there. One is transpirational pool, another one is root pressure or turgidity, then the osmotic pressure, and all those are coming together to send the water and the minerals to high up into the leaves. You know, the highest, the tallest plant is 90 meter, and so the root pressure and the other pressures are acting so strong that they can send the sap up till to 90 meter. And this has been discovered by the great scientists of our country known as the Sir Jagadish Chandra Basu or Acharya Jagadish Chandra Basu, and who was the first biophysicist of India. And so anyhow, he also proved that the plants respond to the stimuli, and they have the sensation, they have the light. So all those is there. So this theory of him is known as the theory of ascent of cell. What did I write here? The ascent of cell. So by this, the total mass of the sap goes high up in the air. Now as this goes on, so food is prepared here, and now when food is prepared, what happens, you know, during the day, especially the green plants make the food, and then what happens here, you know, the continuous supply of the sap or the water is going on and going on. But what happens if there is a huge amount of the sap is accumulated in the leaves? Obviously what will happen? If you have the capacity to carry suppose say 140 kg of bag, and if you have been given 80 kg, then 100 kg, what will happen? Your shoulder will break. So the plants are having the system of leaving the excess water into the atmosphere. That's what we have studied in the last lecture, and that is done in several ways. That is done by the leaves, definitely, also by the stems, and also by the stem. So the leaf one is known as the stomatal transpiration, and the stem one is known as lenticular transpiration. Obviously the transpiration obviously is done by the leaf, because the leaves are more in number and they provide the surface, in which the cuticular transpiration, that means the little bit of transpiration is done from the upper part of the leaf where there is cuticle yet. And secondly, the lower part of the leaf or the dorsal part, that means the reverse part, the stomata is there, and stomata is the plural, the stoma is the singular. There are guard cells are there, and there are different theories are there to control the opening and closing of the stomata. First one is that when there is lot of water, automatically the stoma opens and the water goes out as the form of the vapor. But that cannot be. The stomata cannot be open the whole day. Then there are some quiescent ingredients are there by which it is, whenever it is required, it closes. Whenever it is required, it opens. So that is how it controls the flow of the water. But at night, it is usually done. So if it is not done, the leaves will droop. The leaves will break and droop. So if the leaves will have lot of water, it will droop. Again, Then, then the leaf starts the preparation of the food by taking the carbon dioxide through the stomata, by taking the mineral salts along with the water as sap, and there is sunlight which breaks the water through chlorophyll, because chlorophyll is a very important pigment, and this pigment is full of magnesium chelate, a special compound which can convert the sunlight into heat. And this is the way how they break the water, which is known as the photolysis. And in photolysis they split the water into hydrogen ion and OH ion. So after that, the carbon hydrogen oxygen combination makes the carbohydrates, and these carbohydrates they produce as their food. That is the direct product. And what is the byproduct of the photosynthesis? That byproduct is the oxygen. Now plants release oxygen during the day because that time they respire very little. Obviously there is respiration. If there is no respiration, the plants will die. But they do through the lenticels, or even if through the stomata, they just do it in a very, very low percentage. So they release the oxygen in the atmosphere, and you know all the heterotrophs, especially the human beings and all, they take the oxygen for their breathing, and as they take the oxygen for their breathing, they consume it. And remember, the consume of 4.5% of oxygen produces 4.5% of carbon dioxide more. But see the magic of the nature. There is a system that the plants require the carbon dioxide for preparation of their food. So they are taking the carbon dioxide produced and they combine it with oxygen and obviously with the hydrogen to make the carbohydrates. So this is how the things are balanced. So the preparation has been done, the food preparation has been done. Now there are two conductive cells, two kinds of conductive cells are there. They are arranged in a proper way which is known as vascular bundle. And in bigger plants which are known as a dicotyledonous plant, who actually lives many years, that there you find that when the logs are cut, huge logs, you will see under just lying beside the road or in a timber mill, you will find the marks are there, rings are there. And these rings are known as the annual rings. Those are nothing but the vascular bundle rings, and by which the calculation of the age of the plant has been detected. So that is how they do. And finally, whenever the food is prepared, the phloem tissue, which also makes a tube, which slowly and gradually sends the total food to all parts of the plant body. This is known as translocation of food. This is known as translocation of food. Now I already explained you about the diffusion and the osmosis, the two processes by which the translocation of the food is done. Well, now there is another process which is known as active transport. It occurs by the expenditure of the energy. In active transport, the osmotic absorption of the water is done and Casparian strips appear. Here you see active non-osmotic absorption is also there, that is helps the ascent of sap to rise. The cohesive and adhesive force and the transpiration pool theory. The cohesive force, you know, the forces among the molecules are there. That is cohesive force. And adhesive force that comes through the osmosis and the diffusion when they do. So by this the water goes high up. The characteristic features of the phloem transportation, that the phloem are having the tube and they have a plate. See the magic, when the prepared food is filled, the plate is closed. Then again, when it is translocated, slowly and gradually that is emptied. And then this goes on slowly and gradually. Today we have up till this. Tomorrow or the next lecture I'll explain you it in broadly. Thank you and have a good day.